Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the absolute darkest, most thrilling psychological rides in literary history. We're talking about William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Written way back around 1606, this isn't just an old play, it's a masterful tragedy that digs deep, really deep, into the human psyche. We're going to explore what happens when ambition goes entirely unchecked. We'll look at fate, profound guilt, and the incredibly dangerous lure of absolute power. So get ready for a story packed with betrayal, supernatural forces, and the heavy consequences of our darkest desires.
Okay, let's dive into this. The story kicks off in the middle of a violent, crackling storm where three supernatural witches meet and decide, you know what, they're going to cross paths with Macbeth. They chant, "Fair is foul and foul is fair." With just that one super eerie line, Shakespeare instantly sets a deeply unsettling mood. It introduces us to this core theme of appearance versus reality. Basically, what seems good might actually be incredibly evil, and what seems evil might appear good. Nothing, and I mean nothing, in this world is exactly as it seems.
And that brings us to the big, central question we're exploring today. What drives a noble hero to become a ruthless tyrant? This isn't just a story about some king. It's a gripping psychological descent. I want you to just keep this question in the back of your mind as we watch our protagonist slowly unravel. Why does this matter to us? Because honestly, it's a mirror reflecting our very real, very human vulnerability to greed and power.
Section 1. The Spark of Ambition. The prophecy begins.
Before all the chaos starts, let's quickly map out our key players. First, returning victorious from defeating Scotland's enemies, we have Macbeth himself. He's a highly courageous Scottish general, but, as we're going to see, he harbors a deeply ambitious streak. Next up is his wife, Lady Macbeth. She is this intensely ambitious instigator who plays a massive, pivotal role in the events to come. And finally, contrast both of them with King Duncan. He's the current, noble king of Scotland, basically representing lawful order and pure goodness.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how specific prophecies plant the seed of all this destruction. When Macbeth and his loyal friend Banquo meet those witches, the witches greet Macbeth with three distinct titles. First, Thane of Glamis, which, well, he already is. Second, Thane of Codger. And third, the ultimate prize, the future king of Scotland. By the way, they also tell Banquo that while he won't be king himself, his descendants will be. But for Macbeth, it's this exact timeline that changes absolutely everything.
The inciting incident hits almost immediately. Right after meeting the witches, King Duncan actually rewards Macbeth by making him the Thane of Codger. Bam! That proves the very first prophecy completely true. When Lady Macbeth gets a letter from her husband describing this literal miraculous prediction, she doesn't hesitate for a second. She immediately starts plotting the murder of King Duncan so her husband can sort of accelerate fate and just take the crown. The spark has officially caught fire.
Section 2. The Bloody Crown. Murder in the Dark.
So King Duncan arrives at Macbeth's castle as a guest, and the pacing of our story completely shifts. We go from plotting to this hushed, incredibly tense, and violent action. Lady Macbeth has successfully convinced her husband to murder the king in his sleep, and right before he does it, Macbeth's psychological struggle reaches a total breaking point. He famously asks, "Is this a dagger which I see before me?" as he literally hallucinates a floating dagger leading him right toward Duncan's bedroom. It's not just a weapon, right? It's a profound symbol of temptation and unchecked ambition. It's that exact moment Macbeth allows his dark desires to just completely overcome his moral compass.
And here is how the bloody usurpation of power actually goes down. First, Macbeth follows through. He murders King Duncan in his sleep. Next, Lady Macbeth takes charge of the cover-up. She frames Duncan's innocent guards by planting the bloody daggers right beside them. The next morning, when the body is discovered, Macbeth swiftly kills those guards. He claims it was out of sheer anger, but actually, scratch that, it's really just to ensure their permanent silence. Fearing for their own lives, Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Donabane, flee Scotland. Naturally, this makes them look incredibly guilty, which completely clears the path for Macbeth to finally be crowned King of Scotland.
Section 3. Paranoia and Tyranny. The Cost of Power.
Now, you might think gaining the crown would bring Macbeth some peace. Well, no. Instead, it triggers this terrifying spiral into intense fear and ruthless tyranny. And this brilliantly illustrates how their partnership just totally fractures. Consumed by paranoia, Macbeth remembers the prophecy about Banquo's descendants becoming kings, so what does he do? He hires murderers to kill his honest, loyal friend Banquo. Banquo's son, Fleance, barely escapes. Later, at a royal banquet, Macbeth's guilt manifests as a full-blown hallucination. He actually sees Banquo's ghost sitting right in his chair, and he's the only one who can see it.
Meanwhile, Lady Macbeth is desperately trying to calm their confused guests and keep up the facade. But Macbeth is acting so irrationally that the Scottish nobles immediately begin to suspect him. He is literally losing his grip on reality.
Section 4. The tragic downfall. A false sense of security. As we head into the final acts of the story, the tension absolutely skyrockets. Unchecked ambition is finally catching up with our anti-heroes. Macbeth is desperate, so he visits the witches again, and they give him 3 new prophecies. 1. Beware Macduff, a nobleman who opposes him. 2. No man born of a woman shall harm Macbeth. And 3. Macbeth will remain undefeated until Birnam Wood, a literal forest nearby, comes to Dunsinane Hill. These deceptive prophecies give Macbeth this incredibly dangerous, false sense of invincibility. Believing he is entirely untouchable, he commits his most ruthless act yet. He orders the murder of Macduff's wife and children.
But while Macbeth is turning into a total monster, Lady Macbeth completely collapses under the crushing weight of her conscience. She becomes severely mentally disturbed. There's this famous scene where she's sleepwalking, frantically trying to wash imaginary blood off her hands, crying out, "Out, damned spot." It is such a haunting portrayal of a mind that is completely overwhelmed and destroyed by guilt. Tragically, she eventually dies, and it's widely believed she took her own life.
This brings us to one of the most crucial symbols in the whole story: blood. It represents inescapable guilt and the permanent stain of murder. Early on, Lady Macbeth literally thought a little water could clear them of their deed. But her tragic descent into madness shows us that, yeah, you can wash your hands, but you cannot wash your soul. Her initial, ruthless strength is entirely obliterated by her own conscience.
So how does the tyrant finally fall? Let's break down this thrilling final battle. Step 1. Macduff, who basically represents justice and patriotism here, flees to England. Step 2. He joins Malcolm, who is Duncan's rightful heir, to raise a massive army. Step 3. As they march toward Macbeth's castle, the soldiers cut branches from Birnam Wood to use as camouflage. This brilliantly fulfills that impossible prophecy of the moving forest. And finally, step 4. Macbeth still thinks he's totally invincible, right? Until Macduff reveals a massive biological loophole. Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped, meaning he was delivered via cesarean section rather than a natural birth. The impossible prophecies are fulfilled, Macduff kills Macbeth, and Malcolm is finally restored as the rightful king of Scotland.
Section 5. The meaning behind the madness. Themes and legacy.
Let's move to and see how this builds. We've watched the thriller unfold, but let's zoom out a bit to distill the profound moral lessons Shakespeare weaves throughout this masterpiece. Honestly, this play is a masterclass in thematic storytelling. Ambition versus corruption shows us exactly how greed destroys moral integrity. Fate versus free will asks a huge question. Did the witches force Macbeth's hand, or did he actively choose his own dark path? Guilt and conscience demonstrates that immoral actions take a severe, heavy psychological toll. And kingship versus tyranny contrasts the rightful, orderly rule of Malcolm and Duncan with the fear-based, violent reign of Macbeth. It's a timeless warning about how leaders lacking honesty and integrity can destroy both themselves and society.
And we really can't talk about these themes without pointing out one final, absolutely crucial symbol: sleep. Throughout the play, sleep symbolizes innocence and peace of mind. When Macbeth murdered King Duncan in his bed, he didn't just kill a man. He metaphorically murdered sleep for himself and his wife. From that exact moment on, their lives are just plagued by hallucinations, intense paranoia, and sleepwalking. They literally traded their peace for a crown they could never truly enjoy.
So, the crucial point is this stark, unbelievable transformation. Just compare the man we met at the very beginning of the story, this courageous, loyal soldier who fought bravely for his country, with the man at the end, a ruthless, paranoid, and completely destroyed tyrant. The real tragedy of Macbeth isn't just that a bad man did bad things. No, it's that a truly great man allowed the tiny spark of greed to burn down absolutely everything good inside him.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this powerful, lingering question. Are we masters of our own fate, or does unchecked ambition ultimately destroy us? Shakespeare's exploration of human vulnerability, the incredibly corrupting nature of power, and the inescapable weight of our own conscience, well, it remains just as relevant today as it was back in 1606. Think about the Macbeths in our modern world, and always remember the steep, steep price of trading your integrity for power. Keep learning, keep questioning, and thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Explainer today.